Batman Arkham Knight is the third installment of the Arkham series developed by Rocksteady Studios. Some say these are the best comic book hero games ever made, and I realize that's a subjective opinion, but I'm with them. I love this game. In fact, my experience with this game makes it difficult to review because I have some serious bias towards it. Everybody gather round for a life story. I have always loved video games. When I was a lad, I spent a serious amount of time on my dad's Super Nintendo. Super Mario World, Mario Kart, Goof Troop, Kirby Superstar, those were my jam. And I was the peanut butter, and together we were a PB&J of happiness. As gaming evolved and newer consoles were released, my friends got them, but I never did. I still played games socially, but never got to have any of my own. Long story short, I gave in to the stigma that love for video games was a negative thing. I still loved playing games with my friends, but if I was asked, I would never admit that it was one of my hobbies. I even remember my first year of college, a girl told me that I shouldn't tell anyone that I liked video games, because they wouldn't like me if I did.
Hey, that right there? That was messed up.
The stigma around gaming is stupid. I basically missed the generations from GameCube to PS3 because of this. Fast forward a few years and I was living with some of my best friends, and one of them had an Xbox One at our place. We had an awesome time playing through all of the Halo campaigns. I would watch him play Arkham Knight as well. He was nice enough to let me have my own save slot so that I could play it myself. This game brought me back from the dead. I remembered how great of an impact video games can have. I remembered how much fun they are. And I had so much fun playing Arkham Knight that I ended up buying an Xbox One and a copy of the game myself. That was a lot about me. I liked the story though, so I'm keeping it in the video. I've talked to a lot of people about this game. Most of them still like Arkham Knight, but it's their least favorite in the series. The most common complaint I hear is that there are too many Batmobile missions, specifically around the tank.
I'm still not sure.
Did I mention the tank is a tank?
Sold.
It's incredibly fun in my opinion. You're welcome to make all of the arguments I've already heard about why so many Batmobile missions are bad, but you shall not convince me that it is bad. My favorite part of the game is the Predator-style fighting. This is Batman at his best. It's a lot like this part from the Batman Begins movie.
Where are you?
Here. It is so satisfying to take out all of these guys without any one of them noticing you. Because I'm freaking Batman, that's why.
This is just the beginning. We succeed here in Gotham, we can take the whole country.
But don't worry, nobody dies. Yeah, running people over and shooting them with this cannon doesn't kill them. Don't ask questions. I also really enjoy traversal in this game. There's obviously the Batmobile, where you can just cause destruction because you're Batman. The grappling and gliding system is also awesome. There is no fast travel in this game, but I honestly never wanted one. Falling with style over Gotham, listening in to the chatter to find side missions, it never got old for me, except for the jump scares. It would be remiss of me not to talk about the acting in this game. I love the DC villains. They are some of the strongest characters in the universe. And honestly, Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as Joker might be one of the best duos ever. The Joker may be overused in this day and age, but it's probably because he's one of the best villains ever made. You're entitled to your opinion, but if you disagree with me, you're wrong. Looking at the surface, the hand-to-hand combat seems simple.
But it's not. I mean, it is.
It may start with just mashing X until you have to counterattack, but the combat quickly ramps up with added skills and more difficult enemies to keep it interesting, complete with super cool slow-motion final blows. Ooh, I am so cool. This was the best climactic ending I've ever experienced. Spoilers ahead, but this game is like 5 years old, so if you've gone this long without avoiding spoilers, then good for you. The main villain in this game is not the Joker, or maybe it is. Let's think about it. The main story revolves around Scarecrow and his fear toxin, which is portrayed in like the most horrific prologue I've ever seen. But throughout the whole game, you hear Scarecrow over the city intercom. By the way, why would a whole city have an intercom? Anyway, He's giving these informative speeches on fear and how he will use fear to break Gotham and Batman himself, which brings into question, what is Batman's greatest fear? Here's my interpretation. Near the beginning of the story, Batman gets a big exposure to the fear toxin, which is how the Joker is brought in as a prominent character in the story, even though he actually dies in the end of Arkham City. The manifested Joker follows Batman around everywhere and really gets into Batman's head. In some instances, the Joker actually takes over completely. Since this is all a result of Scarecrow's fear toxin, I submit that Batman's greatest fear is that he actually is just as bad as the Joker, or that he will eventually turn into the Joker himself and just go nuts. You could argue that he already is nuts, but that just furthers the point. This brings us to my favorite climactic ending ever. In the end, Batman gets caught and just jacked full of Scarecrow's fear toxin. At that moment, you go into his head and experience his greatest fear, being the Joker and raising actual hell in Gotham. You play as the Joker and do some pretty dang horrifying stuff.
This may be my finest work yet.
Please listen to me. After all the good you've done for the city, think about what you're doing. Sir, I'm begging you. Master Bruce, Batman, you have to...
Eventually, Batman gets back behind the wheel, and we start to see Joker's greatest fear. Being no one. Being forgotten. This is when this action-adventure game turns into a horror game specifically designed for the Joker. It's terrifying, and it's awesome, and it spoke to my soul, and you should experience it.
You call this a wake? Where is everybody? Oh, forgot to send the invites, didn't you?
Glenn Woodburn.
So, Glenn, today marks the 1-year anniversary of the Joker's death. Any thoughts on the occasion?
Sorry, who?
The Joker? You
Out of ideas, Bats?
Well, that was a nice summary of one of my favorite games, wasn't it? I know this wasn't really a review, but I had a lot to say about it, and I used this weird platform to get it off my chest. So go ahead and play all the Arkham games. You'll thank me later.